My guest today has gone from a marketing professional to an international leading voice in the subject of narcissist abuse in the span of about 8 years. It isn't necessarily where she wanted to be, but it is a mission of hers, and she has helped millions of people. Tune in to today's episode and find out how she's done it and what she does to support so many.
Hello, dreamers. Welcome to the Late Starters Club, giving you the inspiration, mindset, and tools you need to start something midlife and beyond. Remember, it's never too late to follow your dreams.
It's your host, Andrea Vall, and I am joined today by the fabulous Tracy Malone, who I've known for a while, and I have watched her start a new business that no one would have ever really wanted to start. But you were drawn into starting that business. It's called Narcissist Abuse Support. She's the founder of narcissistabusesupport.com. And she is an author, speaker, educator, and international narcissist abuse and divorce coach. She is a surTHRIVER. I love that. surTHRIVER of abuse herself, and a global resource that reaches millions of survivors. She has over 2.5 million views on Facebook, over 30,000 followers on Facebook and 2.5 million views on YouTube, over 30,000 subscribers on YouTube and Pinterest, and is the author of, let me get back to the book title because I love it, Divorcing a Narcissist. You Can't Make This Shit Up, as well as over, how many did you say, 35 journals?
36 journals. Yeah.
36 journals. That is amazing. So welcome, Tracy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So, like I said, this is probably the journey that no one would want to take, but you are taking it and you are helping others survive and thrive and get through it. So, why don't you just talk a little bit about this journey? You were doing different things before this, obviously, and just kind of sort of launched into this. Tell us about how this started, how you launched this business.
Well, I actually was with a lot of narcissists, as you can imagine, and I never knew what they were. So I made it through my divorce, which was called the most tortured in our town's history by the judge, but no one ever said the word. So then I started dating another guy that friends introduced me to, and I had no idea what a narcissist was at that point, but I did find out he was cheating. And I was like, get away, pig dog. That's it. We're done. And he kept coming, didn't know what hoovering was. I had a lot to learn. And after a church sermon on forgiveness about 3 months later, I decided I'll just stop and forgive him. I don't want him back, but at least let's just clear the air. It was on my heart. He called the police and had me put in jail. And when I got out of jail, someone said, he's gaslighting you. Look it up. And that led to not only him, but then my ex's family. And I'm like, well, why me? How come my friends haven't had this happen? Why me? How come my therapist didn't tell me? And I started doing all this work, and my son came home from college and said, Mom, you should start a YouTube channel. So it started with that. And then I started support groups, and they grew so big that the libraries would kick us out. And then we had to get another library. So we'd have 60 people a month. So it was unintentional to create this. It was just, I needed support, and I just moved into, finding people that needed help. And then I wanted to help them. So I started to learn and not only heal for myself, but learn how to heal others. And it was overlapping my marketing career, which is how you knew me, almost 5 years. I did both of them for 5 years. And now I'm only doing this. But, building a resource, building all of the stuff that I bring to people, it's rewarding. And I have people in Singapore and Dubai that say, I heard you on your podcast and I had to talk to you. So, it grew accidentally.
Yeah. Yeah. Accidentally, but from your own need. And I think that's so interesting because that's oftentimes what we see. Like, we see something out there in the marketplace or something that we're like, God, we wish something was out there like this. And it just ends up to be something we need to create, right? And you are just so prolific. I was just going through all of the resources you have. You have, podcast, YouTube channel, the private Facebook group with people, the tons and tons of blog posts and resources. It's just absolutely incredible. And I'm sure you're making such a wonderful impact out there on the world. And so kudos to you. And it's amazing. Now, kind of I'm curious, did you, when you were in your marketing career, were you also creating this much content, or is this something that's just kind of grown because of your passion for this?
It's grown out of my passion. I certainly marketed for people,
Hmm.
dentists, lawyers, all kinds of people, clients, but
Hmm.
I was doing it for them. I was never marketing myself other than to get another website or another marketing client. And so I was able to take all my skills and move them
Yeah.
into pointing at how do you build your business, Tracy? How do you reach
Right.
more people? And so
Right.
that became my mission.
Right. And I love that because it can be this great intersection of all the knowledge you have with the marketing, with a passion and a service that you are clearly gifted at as well, and just being able to help people. And it must be just so gratifying and wonderful to see kind of those different skill sets come into good use. Yeah.
It's almost like even if I look at all the abuse that I had endured again, when I looked at not only the X and the X, but then the Y, me became my family. Oh my God, I was raised by them. No wonder I never saw. Like we thought ghosting was our family vacation. Like that and it was so normalized to us. Oh, they'll be back. They're just in one of those moods, right? It was just the way I was used to. And so I had a lot to learn. I had to learn to set
Yeah.
boundaries. I had to learn to trust again. I had to learn so much. And everything I was
Yeah.
doing for me, ended up being something I could help clients with.
Right. Right. And so, that's definitely, yeah, if you're in it, you can't see it, right? You can't see what's happening. And I'm sure there's lots of people who have been, raised in that family way that just, think it's the normal way to communicate. So that is interesting. What has been one of your most viral videos that you've done? I know you had some things that really took off early when you first started your channel. I remember watching you when you were doing this, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. As things were growing really quickly. What was a moment where you were like, oh, this is something,
I remember the first one, which actually is still the best one, was a narcissist cheating video. And last I looked, and I have not watched it in 5 years. I don't want to because I'm not that girl anymore, but it still continues. And it's like over 400,000 people have watched it. And so, I was in such a different place, but it's exactly where the person who's being cheated on needs to be. And they get there.
Mhm.
And it validates them. So
Mhm.
that big one, and that was like, "Oh my god, look, it's 20,000. Oh my god, it's 30," and it's like over the years,
Yeah.
and, Google must like it and YouTube likes it because it gets delivered and served as a good cheating video because of the
Mhm.
use.
Right, right. Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm sure that's just can be a really, I mean, there's all these entry points into connecting with you and working with you in different ways. And, all of a sudden, oh, I see that now. I realize that I need resources. I need more help and I need more help. And it's great that you have so many ways for you, your business to help people. And that's awesome. Yeah. And you were so one of the things, you picked out this question from the list of questions that I kind of have as ideas, but I love this for you too. It's just let's dive a little bit into something that went wrong for you that at the time you thought was a disaster, and you were able to pivot that around. What has been that for you? I mean,
Well,
other
I
than the whole
other than being abused my whole life, other than that, I think it was probably the arrest. I tell people that it was the worst day of my life and truly just blindsided to how someone could be that cruel to it was actually the pinnacle that changed me. Like it was
Mm,
straw. Look this up, Tracy. What is going on in your life? Why do you keep having these horrible people in your life? And
yeah.
if that arrest had not happened, I am not sure I would be here. So,
Yeah.
it, as much as I still don't think that was the right thing, no one should ever have that happen to them. For me, it was the pinnacle change.
Right. Right. So how did that happen? How could he get that? How could he make that happen? What were
Well,
the, I mean, I don't know if you want to get into that whole story, but I think it's curious for our listeners to be like, how could that even
right.
happen?
Well, apparently he's done it before. I later
Mm.
found out from his ex-wife that he'd done it to her 3 times. And
Oh,
so he was trying to protect the new girlfriend we call Supply, who happened to be in his driveway when I went to forgive him for the other one. So I call the other one, the Christmas one, door number 2, and here's door number 3 sitting in the driveway. But I was like, but she's been on Facebook and she always likes your I didn't talk to her or him about her that day, but after the arrest, her she reached out to me and said, "What the hell happened?" He had then dumped her because she knew too much. And so
oh,
we became best friends. She
oh,
stayed with me for 3 months. She was from Australia. We compared notes. When did you see him? He'd been seeing all 3 of us for 2.5 years.
oh my
All
gosh.
and I was like, "When did you see him? He was either with me or this, right?" And the bottom line was we compared calendars. We all had a task. I was the babysitter. He would get his schedule every week and go, I'm going to be out of town Wednesday through Friday. Can you watch the kids? Oh, this is a big one. I'm going to be gone for a week. Can you watch my kids and take them to soccer and give up your life? And I'd be like, sure. Okay. Right. And when I compared notes with this girl, number 3, she was here in town. They stayed at the Westin Hotel down the street from my house, but he would send me pictures of him in Chicago, not him in Chicago, but random pictures of Chicago going, wish you were here, but he was down the street. Right. And so
Wow.
that's the kind of level of crazy that this man was. And he
Right.
lost his children and he should have, he was a very, very vile man. And so again, I only saw the charm and I
Wow.
ignored all the signs of his irresponsibility and
Mm,
his of trustability. I just was like, oh, okay, he'll be back tomorrow. But he was using us. I had the job. I was the babysitter so he could have sex with other people. Isn't that wonderful? I'm so
oh
kind.
my goodness. Oh my goodness. That is just crazy. And I'm sure that there's a button. There's a button for podcast listeners. She's got the button that says you can't make this shit up. I, I mean, really, I mean, obviously the subtitle wrote itself, it does seem wild. And when you are in it, you trust. And I can see where you have that challenge of being able to trust again. And no wonder there's that has to be built up again and being able to trust yourself and trust others. So
I had to
there's
write a
a
book
lot.
to write a book on how to trust again in order to make
Yeah.
sure I did right next time.
Yeah. 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 That is wild. And I think it's just so amazing that you're able to, you know, again, like you said, you're working 60 hours a week at this point, just really serving and giving people content, and you've got all these ideas flowing. And how do how do you manage all that? How do you decide what direction to go? Is it, pulling in from your community, or is it something that you say, here's what I know that they will need next? How do you decide some of that?
It generally comes from the community. Even the subtitle of my book was because 3 people in one day came in and got on, "You're not gonna believe this, you can't make this up." And I'm like, but hear a need in what I'm talking to clients about,
Mhm,
I make material for it. One of the most
mhm.
important things that this was again, I think this is my second most popular video, and it's for parents with a narcissistic son or daughter-in-law that now isolates you from your grandchildren and won't let you
Ah,
see them smile. Heartbreaking. right? But when I
Yeah.
had like 10 of these in a month, I'm like, okay, they all demand a ransom letter. They all demand an apology. They all like, they have conditions, buy us a house, a car, and then we'll come back. And the parents do, and they don't. Right. And so it's the most painful thing. And I fear it more than anything in the world because I'm
Right.
dealing with this all the time that
Mhm.
just this is the young generation coming in, and we're kind of used to sort of the middle aged and the people who have been with someone for a while, but this is new, and these are 20-year-olds, these are
Mhm.
25-year-olds that are now saying to the grandparents, you can never see your children, your grandchildren again, just to isolate and control their child. So I made a whole page about that. I made an ebook about that, and the video just keeps getting more and
Yeah.
more every day. So it's a need base.
Right. So I'm sure you're seeing some of these patterns in the community, and you can, yeah, that's the great thing too, is that you can realize, I mean, it's almost like like you said, you see all the patterns and then you're able to provide the framework for, hey, here's the flags you watch for, and here's, some things that you can do. And how do you navigate through that challenge? I know probably everything's can be a little bit different, but yeah. And how great for other people to be able to come together and see that I'm not alone in this.
And that's when I started my Facebook group. And now I have like, I think there's like 7 admins that have been doing it volunteer for 8 years. Right.
Yeah.
And we have so many people that come in every single day, and, it's just monitoring. So we have that. And I also, I have 2 groups a week with women.
Right.
And that's how I learned so much for my book was
Mhm.
listening to them and following them for a year and going, this was their divorce journey. And this is what we learned from that. And that
Yeah.
made footprint of my book.
Yeah. 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 That's just, it's truly amazing work. I'm sure that you have to, and probably challenging stories to hear, having come through it. I'm sure you've had to do a lot of your own, healing first before you can help others. I'm sure.
Absolutely. And the horrific stories, I know a lot of people that do this work, and
Mm,
like they're like 2 people a day. Like the
mm,
trauma that we're hearing, the rapes, the beatings, the ribs that are broken, the stealing of their children. These stories are painful to listen to. And I know people that can only do like 2 a day. And I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, no, that's not enough. There's too many people that need my help.
Mm,
So,
right.
I did have to go to lots of different therapists to learn how to not take on their energy, and I have
Right.
really big crystal stones under my monitor right now that absorb all the negative stuff so that I
Mhm.
cannot take it on or sit
Right.
there as an empathetic person. I feel
Right.
for that. So I had to learn to dial it down so that I could keep
Right.
going.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's a skill in itself. So different than, marketing background. It's like a whole new challenge, a whole new muscle that you're having to build with that. So that's amazing.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. And one of the other things that you had talked about is that I'm curious about. You said one of the other questions that resonated with you was something that you used to be afraid of now that doesn't have power over you. I mean,
Mm.
obviously, other than, narcissist.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to hear what else is there for you.
Well, I think fear was a huge thing. Being raised by narcissists, it was my driving force, right? And I didn't know how to control it. And I didn't know that, the things like I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough. I had to learn to put all those things down. Just even facing the book, launching a book that's 300
Right.
pages. Like, what if I didn't make a legal, mistake, or I'm telling
Right.
people's lives? This is so important. And I had to go and face that sort of imposter syndrome to go, you know what,
Right.
Ricky? Fears are not something that can control you unless you let them. We can have them, we can experience them, but we have to move through them. And I'm actually teaching a fear class tonight. So it kind of works out. But that was something that really limited me. And I had to learn to put it down and go, there's no truth to that, Tracy. Why are you holding on to that? Right. And when you get empowered to let go of something that you've been holding your whole life,
Yeah.
your life completely changes.
Yeah, and I mean, imposter syndrome is huge. It doesn't matter, how much I mean, I don't know. Doesn't to me it feels like it doesn't matter how much education you have, how much background you have, how much, all that stuff that you could have on paper. There still, I think, comes a time where like, who am I to be out there? I mean, you are out there on the forefront, a very visible spokesperson for this. And I'm sure that it's challenging to be so visible in in a space like this.
Yeah, and again, I think I'm compared to therapists or psychologists, and that's the education I don't have. I could
Yeah.
teach you Facebook, and I could teach you all this other stuff, but I,
Yeah.
I don't have the certificate of being a therapist. A coach is different, right? But I know that because I treat so many psychologists, psychiatrists, and therapists that I have something they don't have. It's not my experience. I have read over 1,000 books. I read 4 books a month, and
Yeah.
I often read the book of someone I'm going to interview before I even interview them. So it's ever growing, knowledge. And so
Right.
that's what the therapists don't have. They get 2 weeks in school to learn about all personality disorders. And that's not enough for them to be immune to it happening to them. And
Yeah.
so why I'm sort of like, okay, I'm helping these therapists and I'm helping the psychologist, and they need this. And it's
Right.
not about the formal education. It's about
Yeah.
what done with what I've learned.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think that, the thing is you're, connecting with people, you're doing all the reading. I mean, that's what you do in school. You read books, right? You learn and you read books and you're in there helping the people in the trenches. And that is so valuable in itself rather than like sitting in a classroom. You are there experiencing it, being with people. And I mean, the same, I've never had a marketing degree. I don't have any background in marketing, but I've read hundreds and hundreds of books and taken lots of classes and, written some books myself. And it does that imposter syndrome still comes up for me where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I know enough to be talking about this.
Mhm.
So
See,
it's,
it happens to all of us,
yep.
I don't think that anyone is immune to that because
Yeah.
it's innate in all of us, and we have to overcome that and
Right.
overcome the fear that maybe we are not as smart or maybe we don't have all the answers. But you know what? I'm not claiming to have all the answers, but I sure can help someone through this pain.
Exactly. And that's what if you just focus on who you're serving and coming from the highest intent of making sure that they are, getting the help that they need and having this experience and recognizing, where can we pull resources? And if you're helping people, doesn't matter that you have a degree or not. I mean, obviously, so it's if it's truly like kind of helping people through to the other side and making sure that they're, served and they're well and they're heard and they're a healing, then I think that it's all about doing good in the world. And there's, having a piece of paper that says you're good enough is not where you need to be.
But again, they're narcissistic parents, right? So many people who have been abused like me don't even realize, or sometimes they do, the family of origin, legacy that's inside of them. And right before my father died, right before my book came out, he said to me, last thing, you're writing a book? Who the hell would read your book? You never even wrote a term paper. And that's what I'm holding on to because that pissed me off and drove me to get that book out. I was like, you want, I'll show you. You know what? It's a bestseller and it's still selling a lot every day. So don't be sitting there telling me what I can't do because that's what I listened to my whole life. And I
Yeah.
had to come that
Yeah.
recording of no, that's not true. And sorry that you're not here, but see that I am successful, but that's not my legacy. My legacy is to help others and not hold on to the stuff that my parents told me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild to hear that from a parent. And even it doesn't matter if it's young or old, it's still very hurtful. So
Yeah.
that is awful. So But it, I guess, then shows you the breadcrumbs of where things started, right? Where things can start there, and being able to recognize that there's a reason, um, it has more power, or someone can have more power later in life. So, well, that is amazing, and such a great thing that you're out there doing. What is, what is something, how about a story that you're really proud of, or a moment that you're really proud of in your journey here?
Sure. It was actually a year ago this month, probably this week, if I look back at it. I was asked to be part of a Hollywood production on Narcissist called The Narcissist Trap. And they called me and flew me to Utah to be in a big studio and be interviewed by Robert Redford's daughter, Amy. And
Uh,
it was going to reach 10 million people. And I was so proud. I was so scared in that studio, but I pushed through the fear and I got it, and it came out really good. And I was a little like, well, there you go, Tracy. Good job. But that's I'm so proud of doing that because it's not just the people who watch my YouTube channel or any YouTubes. It's Hollywood. It's getting to people that are watching something that don't know what they don't know yet. And, a lot of people are like, oh my God, that's my sister's relationship. Oh, let me point her in the right direction, right?
right,
But to have
right.
Hollywood come out and do this big production was a really big move. And I'm so proud to be part of it.
Oh, that is amazing. How awesome. I love that. And it is about just like finding different ways to get that message out, right? Because, you've got a lot of followers on Pinterest and YouTube, and, a lot of material out. But if people aren't looking for it in a more intentional way, sometimes it's just not going to reach people. And so if they're seeing it in a different way and all of a sudden thinking, hey, wait a second. And just like yourself, you didn't really recognize it because it was also in your family of origin. So that is amazing. And is that out right now, or is that?
It is. I actually have the CD of it. But yeah, the Narcissist Trap I'm holding up. It is
uh,
something that you can go to the Narcissist Trap and watch it there. It's a whole series and they brought in some of the top heavy hitters. And I'm so honored to be called one of the top experts. I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
Big.
Yes.
So it's cool.
Yeah. And all of this happened in a span of what, 7 years, or how
8 years. It'll be eight
8 years?
years since I learned, and 10 since my divorce. So, you know, I learned the hard way, but I'm taking and making such amazing lemonade. I often say, screw lemonade. I'm making a difference.
That's awesome. I love that so much. Oh my gosh, Tracy, this is amazing. You're amazing. And as these things go so quickly, but as I love to do at the end of the interview, is just have you share a motivational saying or inspirational quote that you have that you want to share with our listeners.
Sure. It's from a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I actually have it written and I hold it up for clients all day long. Whatever happens to me, given any situation, I will handle it. Instead of fearing and worrying about it, I'll handle it. I'm not going to worry about something that's not happening till February. I'm just going to, when I get there, I'll take care of it. Right. And knowing that you have that power, you've already taken care of so much, but it really helps ground people to go, you know what? Don't fear it and worry about it for the next week before Thanksgiving dinner and you're going to have a big party. Like, do it and get through it. And whatever happens, you'll handle it. Right. It's like, oh, instead of fearing and worrying about something, empower yourself with, I'll handle it. And it works for me and it works for many of my clients.
That's great. I'm sure there's so much fear related to possibly having to leave a relationship, having kids involved, family, having your house and home, everything like that, just all tied up in the mix. And I'm sure it's just such a scary time for so many people going through this. So it's great that you are helping empower people to deal with these situations that they can be in without even realizing what might be happening. And it's great that you can be such a shining example for how someone can get out and thrive, surTHRIVER, as you said. And I love it. So congratulations on all your success and on all your impact. I love what a difference you are making out there in the world.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool, and I'm so grateful that you had me here on Late Starters
Yeah.
Club.
Yeah. Yeah. And why don't you share with people where they can find you best? And we'll have links, of course, in the show notes here. Where can people connect with you?
The best place is go to my website, narcissistabusesupport.com, and then you'll find the links to the Facebook group and my YouTube channel and my podcasts, and pretty much everything that you need is right there.
Yeah. And you guys, I was like totally going down a whole rabbit hole of all the support and all the resources that are there. There's so much there for anyone, all different types of issues and problems that our people face. So love it. So thank you so much, Tracy.
Thank you for having me.
Hope that was helpful, and make sure you grab the free guide, Top Tools for Late Starters, on the website at latestartersclub.com. And let's turn dreaming into doing.